Namaste, everybody. And this week, again, for Hindu Lounge Conversations Over Coffee, we have for the second time in our Hindu Lounge shows Sahana Singh ji. Now, Sahana Singh ji probably is very, very well known to most of you who are listening and watching this. She is an author and a commentator from Texas. She has written many books, and she has been an expert on water and environmental issues, and her work has been presented throughout the world on these issues. She has written the book, "The Educational Heritage of Ancient India: How an Ecosystem of Learning Was Laid to Waste," and that book was received very well. So here is another book from her that was just released, "Revisiting the Educational Heritage of India," published by Vitasta, and it was released in September 2021. So today we are here to discuss that book and to discuss all the different questions that will arise, that can be discussed, that Sahana ji will bring to forth for all of us to understand. And we also have here Ajay Shaji, who is the co-host. Actually, I am his co-host for all the Hindu Lounge events. And hopefully you all will enjoy this conversation. And Namaste Sahana ji, welcome back to Hindu Lounge.
Namaste.
Namaste Utsav ji, Ajay ji. Yes, I think last year I was talking to you about the violence in Bengal,
That's right.
and this time now it's about my book, which is actually going to be launched today in a couple of hours. The US and UK edition is going to be launched.
Yes, yes, and we are
Congratulations.
fortunate to have the pre-launch event of the
This can
launch.
be called the pre-launch event. Yes.
Yes.
Correct, correct.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Sahana ji, I will just dive in because everybody is eager to understand and listen to what the book is all about. So tell us about what was the first book about, and what prompted you to go for the second version.
So the first book was about the title tells you it was about the educational heritage of India, because I felt that many of us are reaping the benefits of that knowledge which was generated from India, but we don't know the heritage. There was a process, how there was an ecosystem. So my first book was devoted to giving a very sketchy details of that system. It was a snapshot, you could say, because there is so much. If one gets into it, then it's going to be a very voluminous book. So my first book was very small, could be read in a couple of hours, and it gave you a picture of the Guru Shishya Parampara, how the students used to live with the guru, learn from the guru in the midst of nature, those kind of things. And then I jumped into all that was created, the kind of knowledge that was created and which was transmitted to the rest of the world, because students coming from around the world, learning from the top gurus in the top cities of India. So it was all about the universities of ancient India. And then I described how this system was damaged, destroyed by the invaders, and later even more by the colonizers, because one was physical damage, physical destruction of universities, and the other was mental deracination, which took place under the colonizers. So I gave all that. And I stopped at that. I ended there with the destruction and with the hope that we do something about it. And after that, I got so many emails, so many so much feedback, that people wanted to know more about it, and they also wanted something positive. What can we do about this? Can we bring back our lost heritage? And then also, since it's a journey for me, I kept learning more and more about the topic. And then I realized that there's a sea of information that I need to give to add to the first book. So I decided to use my pandemic enforced lockdown time at home to do more research. That was a very productive time for me. I managed to read so many books, access so many documents, and then I wrote the next. It's actually, you do not need to now read the first book. The second book has everything in the first book plus more details. But the first book is for those who have the patience to read a more detailed book. They want to sit in a flight and finish the book. For them, the first book gives them a summary of what the educational heritage was. So that's how it happened. And so there are many things in the new book on the same topic. and it delves deeper into brahmacharya, the memory techniques we had. Ancient Indians had extremely good memories, and it has been mentioned in way by foreign travelers as well that how these people remember everything. They need not even be very educated for that. Even the dhobi, even the shopkeeper, how do they have such great memories? So that was actually one the informal education that we had. Memory was very important, and stories. I went a little bit into the pedagogy in the second book. How stories were used to teach, how games were used to teach. We had so many educational games. Snakes and ladders was educational. Chess we all know. Cards were invented in India. Playing cards was also a strategy game. So I went into all that, and also in the end, of course, I spoke about what can we do today uh, to use the best parts of our ancient education system and weld it with what we have today and root out what is not good. So that's what my second book is about.
That's fantastic. You gave a wonderful overview, and you have more than 200 new references in this book that was not before available in the previous book. So, one question that people will always ask, and probably they have already asked you this question, and it comes to my mind every time I talk to people who are not accustomed with our ancient knowledge system. There has been no record of a lot of things in the last 70 years in independent India's pedagogy on this issue. We continue our history books, our even university books continue to refer to the Greek sources and ancient Persian sources, common pre-common era Persian sources, and they pretty much stop at the point the Greeks stopped. Before that, they just don't go, even though there is enough evidence, enough archaeological evidence nowadays, even genetic evidence from remains of people, that there was a very well developed civilization, there was a very well developed education system. So how do you deal with this conflict of pedagogy, and how does your book reconcile with this, and how do you deal with the debate that happens because of this?
So you see, lots of information is there which has to be taken out from our own shastras and from the commentaries. There have been many, many commentaries which are written on all the shastras. So because it was an oral tradition, it was taught orally, but more details should be written in the commentaries because paper came later, writing came later. And in fact, the gurus did not like students to write down things. They wanted them to remember things. So earlier, writing was discouraged even though it was available because they knew that once you write it, you will not remember it. And we see that happening today. We think it's all there in the hard disk, we don't need to remember, and so we don't remember anything. All that evidence that is there, it was not, we still have millions of manuscripts that have not been translated because so many foreigners came to study in India. They took manuscripts with them. We have manuscripts in Japan, in China, Mongolia. We have them scattered all over. And of course, the colonizers took the biggest, the loot. And if we make a catalog of all the manuscripts that they have taken and they taken away, the French, the Dutch, the British, that itself will become a thick book, giving you the names of all those manuscripts, and they are lying in museums. Many of them, they are lying in various libraries, even here in America, and in the original form, some not translated. And we do not have enough number of people who know Sanskrit, Vedic Sanskrit, old Sanskrit, to actually know what's written in all of them. We need a good number of people to look at them.
Yeah.
So yeah, the what we have access to, we had access to was mostly the colonized writings, the missionary writings, colonizers' writings, and that's what shaped our education policy. But I think I'm very thankful to Google because ever since Google came, and then a lot of these have been uploaded. So since the time I wrote my first book and the gap between my first and second book, I found a lot more books were available on Google in various libraries. In the US, I'm very grateful to these libraries. Even UK, the British Library, and so of course you have to pay something. Most of it is not free. You have to pay something and you get access. So yeah, we have to piece together our history. This is the challenge. It's there, but it's not given like in one place. So you have to weed it out. You have to go back and learn the languages. Learning Sanskrit is very important. Learning all the even Chinese, because if you are very good in Chinese, you can go and look in the Chinese libraries, in the Taiwanese libraries where they have our manuscripts. This is how I think the our history is being pieced together by all these by technology and by people who are interested. And now the government is also taking interest under the new education policy and the Indian knowledge system IKS project, right? They are actually trying to bring it all back into the mainstream. But what we need is now qualified people, committed people, people who know more than Hindi and English. They need to know many languages and go into depth of it. And they need to be rooted in the culture. So, for example, most of us are educated in English. Me too. And so many of these practices look alien to us because we are not insiders to it, right? It took me years and years to understand that when I'm blowing out a candle on a birthday, I'm actually doing something which is meaningless. In our culture, we do not blow out. We light a lamp to signify the new beginnings, knowledge, auspiciousness. We light a lamp. We don't blow out. So, we are all very rootless in that sense. So, the more rooted we are, we go and we need to travel within the country, meet some of the practices that are being followed by rural people will actually lead us back to our own understanding of our culture and make sense of what is written in the shastras as well.
Speaking
That's such
of
an important point. I just wanted to point out that the Namami Bharat project has 5 million manuscripts, and they have not been digitized or analyzed yet, or even read. Most of them are not even read yet. So that's a
Yes.
very good point. And that's just one collection. There are so many other collections in India which are very similar. Go ahead, Utsada.
so speaking of, you mentioned about the colonizers taking away our manuscripts, a lot of them being outside India, in Western capitals, in Western museums, Western libraries. Similarly, a lot of them in China and Taiwan, and probably even Tibet and Mongolia.
Yes.
So it is really fascinating that there is a much bigger portion of our historical record, despite us being an oral tradition, that has simply gone missing because of the Islamic invasions. The ones that survived probably made it to the Western capitals. The ones that were protected before through Buddhism or traditions of Buddhism made it to the Eastern capitals and Eastern cities. But there were massive amounts of documents that were in the Indian subcontinent, going all the way in Western Khorasan, what was called Khorasan later on, the steppes, going
Yes.
down into what is present day Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in
Right.
Afghanistan, the massive, educational institutions with huge libraries, all the way up to Nalanda, Jagaddal, Takshila, and
Correct.
all these places are going down to the south. And the south was actually ravaged not in too long a past, like only
Correct.
400 years ago. The Tipu Sultans were ravaging the south. So, can you tell us what your experience has been in dealing with that missing information? How you dealt with it? What was your experience?
Yeah, so you see, mine is a very cursory look at everything. So for me, this is part of the journey because I'm also learning Sanskrit. I'm getting exposed to, say, Nyaya Shastra. There is somebody every now and then who shares his knowledge of Nyaya Shastra. I'm trying to learn Panchanga. So it is, in a way, we are all groping. It's very difficult sometimes to find that the Sanskrit enabled people have access to all these things. So this is there is a lot of missing information, but we are, I feel that if we all approach it together with Shraddha and with the determination, then slowly we will succeed. And I can see that happening. I can see that there are individual efforts which are doing so much. Like there was a person called Mohit Bharadwaj who found out that people in their houses were keeping old manuscripts, which they didn't even know what is in that. So he embarked on that mission to go to all those houses and scan all the documents, upload them. He himself put his money together, bought a scanner, portable scanner, because you can't use the regular scanners for that. And then he started doing that. So, all these efforts, I think they will coalesce one day. Uh, when we all, enough number of people realize what is missing and what we need to do about it, uh, I think it will all come together. My experience has been very interesting and also a lot of hard work. Often I've requested people to just send me what they have, just can send me, please. I keep bothering them until they send it to me. And of course, our own people obstructing this. We have a lot of our own deracinated people who think, what is there in this? What good will you get by knowing these things? History is something that happened in the past. Why do we need to know what happened in the past? Move forward. This is our own people talking like that, and they don't understand the wealth of information that we are not mining. by looking into this, right? And meanwhile, there are others who are patenting this information, those who are all this knowledge that we had, right? Like there are so many herbs in Ayurveda, and our own people, our own Indian origin people are patenting because we don't know about them. In India, we haven't done. So yeah, this has to be a multi-pronged effort and multidisciplinary. People with knowledge in some subject, very deep knowledge in some discipline, should also have knowledge of Sanskrit, or maybe they work with people who know Sanskrit. So that is the kind of effort we need. Multidisciplinary people working with Sanskrit enabled and even Tamil enabled, because let's not forget there are manifold manuscripts in Tamil, Kannada. My mother tongue is Kannada, uh, and I keep hearing about some wonderful things written in Kannada. Books on science, books on engineering in Kannada. And they will, what wealth will they yield? What knowledge will they yield? We need to know the language for that. So, though my mother tongue is Kannada, I grew up studying English, Hindi, and Bengali. I studied in Calcutta. So, I don't know how to read Kannada. So all these efforts have to be made for us to know what is missing. Even to know what is missing is a challenge.
Fantastic. And since you mentioned the fact that in this entire process you had to meet a lot of people, you had to request them. A lot of them did not give you support either. So was there any formal support from libraries in Western capitals, because they have a lot of manuscript? Did you have any issues working with them? What was your experience with Western
See, if I'm not in that university, it's very hard for me to, if they have not uploaded it, or if they have uploaded it and it's only for members, then so I used to try and find students who are studying in those universities. And I would beg them to please give the password they have so that I can go and use it. And some of them were kind enough to give give their password. Others said, no, sorry, we can't do these things. So I'll beg professors and through friends' children, give me the password so that I can use that book. Of course, when my daughter was studying in Austin, she helped me a bit. Then she graduated. And then I said, come on, can I still use that library? And she says, you have to, I don't know what, you have to pay some $10,000 or something for lifetime membership. Quite a lot of money will be needed to have access. So it's our knowledge which is with these people, which they have uploaded. Of course, some of it can be blamed on ourselves because we were negligent enough. And even today, there are in Varanasi, in Kashi, there are bookshops that sell old books, and they are being taken away by people who come from the West. Um, and they just give massive amount of money and they take everything away that is there. Some of them are not meant to be sold as well. They are taking away that. So the same things that used to happen in the past, stealing of murtis, stealing of manuscripts is still happening today.
That's fascinating because unlike Western, actually the Vatican has one of the largest libraries in the world, and they have made it a point to record everything because their record keeping is part of their conquest literature.
Correct.
It is important for them to show their conquest from the past to continue their conquest for the future. We never had those geopolitical or theological attributes or intentions. The most we had was monks traveling across the world, scholars traveling across the world, exchanging information between different capitals. My next question is that you said that you worked in some of the libraries and some of the information that came from China, Taiwan, and you also have a background in I believe in traveling to Singapore, or those regions.
No,
So
I lived in Singapore, yes, for
you
about
say, yeah,
30
so
years.
I knew that you lived there and you spent some time there. So what's the information that you got there? How helpful were they, and what is their the response to the idea that you are working with? Like, do they understand what you're? Tell us more about it.
Well, I mean, I didn't work officially with Singapore on this. So again, it was the same thing. NUS library is available to those who are students of NUS, professors of NUS. So I did not use much resources from there because most of my journey started after I moved to America. When I
Okay.
was in Singapore, I think I was not as civilizationally aware as I am today, and the responsibilities were different. My child was younger, and I was in a totally different period of my life at that time. I was in Singapore, but it all happened when I moved to the US, and when I saw my daughter's high school textbook, what it says about India. That's when I really got into all this. So yeah, I mean, I have mostly been using libraries in an individual capacity, not by really talking to the authorities, uh, but trying to go through the students, go through the professors, and get the books out of them, that kind of thing. Um, of course, the thing in Singapore and all would be that there is a lot of Buddhist influence. So they are also trapped in that dichotomy where they think Hinduism and Buddhism are two totally different religions. Uh, and so they'll be attributing a lot of things to Buddhist thought, when actually what you need is that is not what it was. If you go back into history, people did not see Hinduism and Buddhism as totally disconnected religions. Nothing of the sort. Buddha was also a guru. He was a Hindu. And he would be shocked if today he went to any of these universities, maybe even Singapore, and he found that his teachings are now put under some separate religion which has nothing to do with Hinduism. That's not the way it was. And he also was, I mean, taking people from around him who were there, and he was very happy with Brahmins joining the monastery. He always wanted, in fact, wanted Brahmanas, because Brahmanas were the custodians of knowledge. They have so much knowledge, they work so hard, they maintain the right conduct, code of conduct, to give respect to the knowledge that they are trying to gather. And so Buddha wanted them to join his fold so that they will help in disseminating, right? So I think these nuances are being missed even
Absolutely.
in the Eastern universities. I feel that. So what we need to do is something totally different. Yes, take whatever has been written there, access them, and then use your own lenses, our own understanding to uncover what is in those texts.
Absolutely. In fact, since you mentioned Brahmanas and Buddha traditions,
Hmm.
some of the biggest known scholars of Bauddha traditions, Ashwaghosh, Nagarjuna, Kumarjiva, they actually, in their own writings and in their followers' writings, are
Yeah,
always called as Brahmanas. In fact,
correct.
Nagarjuna was considered a Brahmana. Kumarjiva, who actually was a half Kashmiri and half Turkmenistani, and he actually preached Buddhism in China. In fact, he's considered the father of Chinese Buddhism. Is also considered a Brahmana.
Correct.
So this is, yeah, these are some of the things that our own
Yes.
Hindus have
Hmm.
forgotten. And
Correct.
I remember having a conversation with a leftist professor from one of the universities in Kolkata, and and of course that person is a PhD and is supposed to be very well knowledgeable and well read about these things. She mentioned to me, and she almost was arguing with me, that there was no Buddhist, no Hindu scholarship in history. The
Hmm.
only scholarship that India had, or the Indian subcontinent had, was Buddhist scholarship. So she kept on naming, oh, Nalanda was a Buddhist university, this, that. And I said, well, have you ever thought that Aryabhatta, was he a Buddhist or a Hindu? uh, uh, you know I named out like 10 scientists, Brahmagupta, Aryabhatta, Susrut, Charaka, and all of them were Hindus who were contemporary of Buddhists as well, and there was no difference between the two. And in fact, some of the largest compounds of the Nalanda University was built under the Gupta Empire, which is considered by the same scholars as the Brahminical epitome of Indian history.
Excellent. I
So
think
they
you have
have
been
they have
doing wonderful
divided.
work.
Yeah,
You
they
have
have
been doing
divided.
wonderful work yourself in
Oh,
explaining
oh,
all this.
I am more focused on the activism side of things, but I am also very inclined towards knowing more about these things. They all work together. But the tradition that I feel that we have to really challenge within India is that we have to come away from this slicing and dicing and putting things into box narrative that has been gifted to us by
Hmm.
the Judeo-Christian and Abrahamic traditions. And have what is your experience in that aspect? Have you butted heads with scholars in India? How they have treated you? Give us something more about that.
I think this has more happened in social media where I have butted heads with people. I think if I look back, I have done a lot of that. There were even a Greek person who had come somewhere and he was saying that, oh, we have done everything. I respect India, I respect your history, but you can't claim that you did things that we did. Those kind of things. And so I had a clash with him and other such people. It has happened mostly on social media. And so, right in my book, right in the beginning of my book, I've talked about this, that we should not make this distinction between Bauddha Dharma and Hinduism. Of course, they are different sampradayas, but it is actually wrong to treat them all as different religions. Jaina, Buddha, all of them contributed to the same pool of knowledge. They came out from the same pool and they contributed to the same pool. So there are Buddha himself has never said it. Yeah, so those are the things that I keep telling people. But yeah, we have to engage a lot more with the academicians because they are in their silos and they are going on insisting about talking about Buddhism. And the funny thing is that in Nalanda also, right? People were, what were they studying? They were studying Nyaya, they were studying all the darshanas, and they were studying Bodha Dharma. And if you see that when it was destroyed, what did this person write? The chronicler of that time, Minhaj Siraj, said that we killed so many Brahmanas in Nalanda University. So he said that all the Brahmanas with their shaven heads were lying dead. So they themselves are also saying that, right? So why are we making this distinction today and kind of yeah boxing it, and that stops us from understanding the whole culture and the civilization. Even the concepts get too narrowed down, and you don't get it. And it's building divisions in society. There are a lot of Buddhists today who hate Hindus, so I keep hearing about it and I wonder why, because you have come out from the same tradition. Buddha also, what was he? He was a prince, and they were all Hindus. And then he came and he was allowed everywhere. He went and preached, and everybody listened to him. And it was a tradition of debating, which is also our Hindu culture of debating. People watched the debates, they went with whichever guru they found better, who made more sense to them, and they all coexisted. Yes, there were some heated exchanges, sometimes physical also. But overall, I mean, it was a land of debate and learning and seeking. That's what it was. Yeah. And I think we need to take this message to the universities. Need to have more dialogues with them, but they don't even allow us. Do you think that I will be invited to speak to the students over there? I'm not sure. Of course, I will keep making that effort. So somebody like me, would I be invited to come and speak in MIT on this topic or in Harvard? If they allow this dialogue, then we can actually have those exchanges that you're talking about. Right now, it's more in the realm of social media.
I see. I see.
Mhm.
So, since you yourself have worked with the Western knowledge media like National Geographic and organizations like that, have you seen any interest in them? Because National Geographic seems to churn out content after content on trying to prove that Jesus existed.
Hmm.
Off late that has been their storyline for so many projects that they have funded. Have you ever talked to them, or has there been any conversation that you have done with organizations like National Geographic about maybe the Hindu heritage of Afghanistan or something, anything on that sort?
Well, I tried getting op-eds published in Washington Post because they have published two of my op-eds in the past. That was, personal stories that I wrote about moving to America or what my life was in Singapore. They published all that. The moment I sent something about Hindu history, heritage, then there was no response. So I wrote to the editor and I said, look, why are you not responding to this? If you have something that you don't like, let me know. We can talk about it. There's absolutely no response. So I have but not got any response from New York Times, Washington Post, and all of these. So maybe you're right. I should now approach National Geographic. I have not actually discussed with them, but from time to time I do read what they are writing, and I see that they have totally missed the perspective. They do not regard any evidence that has come out from India about our heritage, about our contribution to science and knowledge, philosophy. Just a passing mention. So that is one area. Yeah, I would love to talk to them and know why they are not publishing other viewpoints or other asking giving them a chance to express themselves. That's not happening. There is a certain mold of people that they want among the journalists. National Geographic, right? And I'm seeing I know somebody who works there, and she has that mindset. You have to be an India basher. You have to disapprove of everything that's happening in the country, then you can easily publish there. So you have to come from that background. You can't come from a background where you think that we have a great civilization, great heritage, we contributed to the world, and then you say you want to write to National Geographic. I don't think that has not been. I've not seen them being accepted or welcomed. Most of the deracinated ones are there that I know.
Sahanaji, one question that comes to my mind is that we today we have a particular education system that is quasi global now in terms of what we learn in schools and what we learn in colleges and all that, and we have you know uh, we've been talking about the ancient, Indian educational system, Hindu educational system. How do, going forward, if you have, a vision, and if you have a, ability to implement it, how would these two converge? What would be the next step in your view, and bringing, the Indian thought, Indian educational system into the modern, quote unquote modern educational system as it exists today?
Yeah, I think you see, first of all, I think we need to understand all the literature in the past, that all our sacred literature that has to be made easily accessible to the students. So, and that's what I believe NEP is going to be doing. It's going to introduce this Indian knowledge system course, which is going to be introduced in schools and colleges. So everybody has to do that module, where they will be exposed to what is in the Vedas, what is in the Upavedas, what is in the Vedangas. So that is a very important starting point. At least in, even if it is in English, try to know what is in all these texts. And then I think we also have to, there has to be a big push to make people learn languages and explore the old literature in that language. So if you are a Bengali, or if you're a Kannadiga, Tamilian, try to explore the old literature in that language, because remember, in those times, a lot of Sanskrit literature used to be translated into the other languages for easy accessibility, and it was constantly happening. And the other way around, I also learned that, for example, old Kannada literature was also translated back to Sanskrit, so that it will have a. It was, that was the global audience. So it was very. I was astonished to learn that Kannada books were also being translated to Sanskrit, because if a very good work came out in a regional language, that used to be translated to Sanskrit. So I think all these things have to be told to the students in every discipline. So if you are studying engineering, for example, there has to be a course where you are taught about Shilpa Sutras, you're told about the Shilpa Shastras, and how engineer, the history of that subject, which will invariably lead back to India, that has to be taught. So whether it's physics, chemistry, biology, most of these subjects, if you go back, the original, the beginnings of that subject, you'll find that it leads back to India, and that students have to be made aware. Our own students in India, it has to be part of the education. You can't have a textbook saying that Magellan went around the earth, and that's how we know that the earth was round. I found that in a child's textbook when I went to Bangalore this time, that Magellan, when he went around the world, came back to the same place. Then they realized that the earth is round. And that is so hilarious when you go back to old text 3000 BC, and they are referring to the earth as a globe. So what do you mean by Magellan discovered that the earth is round, right? What I would like to see is that all our textbooks are reflecting the real history of that subject, whichever subject it is. Start with that and make people aware of all these beautiful texts that we have, and give a summary of that, make them excited and interested about that. If you want, make games out of them. Like now, today, we also have games on Mahabharata, Ramayana, and you have to know the names. Even the names are so beautiful. What are the meanings of those names? Those kind of things can be done. So sometimes I do that. I have done that with my daughter as well. There are some people ask me, how is it that your daughter is so rooted in India? She has never been, she was born in India, but we moved out. So these are the things. So we Hindu parents have to ourselves know our history, so that we are also able to make it interesting. And our ceremonies, when we do our religious ceremonies, we should know what we are doing. We should be able to explain to our kids instead of forcing them to do the same thing. So all this has to be somehow woven into our educational system. So there have to be, it has to be a multi-pronged effort. As I said, different organizations have to work with the government. Like I am with an organization called Samskara Foundation, which is trying to help children understand samskara, how to do nitya puja, how to celebrate different festivals. Why are you doing this samskara? Making it interesting to the children. So we are doing that. This has to be part of the education, because if you remember, in ancient India, education was also not just about having information, that you know what is physics, you know what is chemistry. It was also about building your character. So a brahmacharya period, would a student who comes out of brahmacharya would have complete control of his mind. So if he sees a very beautiful woman, he knows not to, go crazy over that woman, make advances, make himself annoying and irritating to that woman. He will now know that he has to control this. And if he has been taught the Kama Sutra, if he has been taught all those, even Panchatantra, then he knows how to behave, how to, how to understand the world. So all that is part of the education. So this has to be, there have to be very carefully thought out courses that have to be introduced. The process has started because I'm seeing a lot of discussions happening on the Indian knowledge systems. How do we include it? And I saw one of the first books that came out. It was very well written. It's explaining different shastras. It is explaining deracination. So there's a course, and we need to add more and more to that. I would love to work with the authorities in India to bring out more books like that. So I'm trying to reach out. Let's see where this all leads.
Yeah,
So,
there's also Hindu University of America, and I think
Mm.
maybe a good partnership with Hindu University of America would also be helpful. And I'm part of Hindu University of America as well, and
Mm.
I think I see a lot of potential in making you know the ancient Indian educational system kind of have some kind of a fusion with the modern American educational system. So it's certainly a topic of conversation and further discussion and consideration.
Yes, Hindu University of America is doing an amazing job. I know the people. I know Kalyan Vishwanathan, and I totally support them. And I see that a lot of good people have joined them also. I know them all.
Yeah,
But I was trying to look at India because it's in India that the maximum number of people are being indoctrinated in India. Once they go into the education system, they join some school where everything is being taught. They're taught Magellan and things like that, right?
right,
So
right.
I think that the biggest work we have to do is in India. Of course, it can happen from America as well, because sometimes they look up to America, and if they see something good happening in America, they will follow that example. So we are trying that as well here. But the biggest work is in India. That has to be the Karma Bhumi.
I agree with you. I just have a little bit of smile on my face is because it took yoga to be popularized in America for it to become popular again in India.
Right.
So yeah, it's and also we have a second and third generation of Hindu kids in America, and a lot of people who got introduced to Hindu dharma through Ayurveda at a store like Aveda, or yoga and meditation through mindfulness and other things. And maybe that is another way of kind of uh, you know
Approaching it. Yes.
approaching
Yes. The two pronged.
the
So you approach, you try
two
to do from here,
approach.
and then you try to work from there, and let's hope it all meets and comes together.
Right,
Yes.
right. Apologies, I don't have a very good voice because of my cough, so I'll turn it over to Utsada. Utsada,
No
go ahead.
problem.
thank you, Adivai. You did well despite not being able to speak at all. Uh, so Sahana ji, coming back to the question of it almost looked like there is a lack of professional global philanthropic support for the work you are doing. Uh, I see a lot of Indian billionaires, millionaires, multimillionaires, both in India as well as those in America. They feel they lack confidence in the revision of our historical knowledge that is happening right now in the right direction. So they continue to, I would see a billionaire go to Harvard or go to Berkeley and sponsor a chair that perpetuates the same logic and the same narrative and the same falsehood in many extent in some places that was being perpetuated before, even though that person fully understands that that is not right. But they just lack confidence and in actually supporting something that they could help build uh, a better India with. And they will go back to the same because that's where their prestige lies in. They themselves probably graduated from such an institution. So how do you deal with that problem? I'm seeing that all over the place now.
Hmm.
Their minds and hearts are in the right place, but they just lack the confidence to back something that can revive it in a new way. So how do you deal with that? What do you suggest that even Hindu University of America, and Ajay is part of it, it's making new strides, but it's been long overdue. I mean, it should have been this way in 1985. We are
Yes.
35 years, 40 years behind. So how do you deal with this?
So this is the problem. So we have to, I think, have more dialogues with these philanthropists and make them understand that they are funding the wrong institutes, wrong people, not setting enough safeguards so that the money is used well and it doesn't go back into that same dirty pool. So we have to do more education of the philanthropists. I think that is one thing. And then, of course, people like me, if our books do well, like you saw Vikram Sampat's book doing so well. When Vikram Sampat's book did well, then Savarkar came back into the mainstream, and then people understood the noble sacrifices that Savarkar made, right? And now Vikram Sampath is invited to mainstream channels where he's interviewed, and so Savarkar is now gaining more acceptability. So things that have been branded as bad and negative, there is a reconsidering considering that happens when a good author comes and presents a balanced view of that person, of that reviled character in history. So I think where I am working on, where I can do something, is writing those books. So I have, for example, written this book on India's educational heritage, and the more I meet the people, the more I tell them that this is what you need to know about India. Do not put everything in the boxes of Brahmanism, feminism, this and that, that ism, and then you just take out all the good things which India did, and then you secularize it, all the good things that India did, and then all the bad things, which you just call that as Hinduism. So this is an education that we have to impart to people, that this injustice that you are perpetuating. But you see, I still have hope, because the thing, movies like Kashmir Files, which became so successful recently, right? Again, a filmmaker who was totally in the margin, right? He was not his movie was not even being talked about by the movie magazines, right? But still his movie was made successful by people like us, and so people was hungry for the truth to be told. So I think these are the kind of things which will probably convince these philanthropists that put the money in the right place and invest in getting good scholars who will come and prepare the narrative for you. Give money to those scholars who want to write books, who want to do research. Enable them so that they come out with books like what Vikram Sampath has written, J. Sai Deepak, his book, India That Is Bharat. And I would put my book also in that category. So these are the books that will probably change the narrative and get the mindset to change in the philanthropists as well, I hope. Can't hear you.
One last question about your book, that a lot of people would want to know, and probably this question has come up to you before. It certainly comes to my mind for sure. There is the India, which is the geographical entity of India today, and a lot of our scholars work within the boundaries of what is India since 1947 to define the knowledge systems, the education, the history of India. And then there is the Bharat, which as a civilizational entity ranges all the way from the Caspian Sea to the Strait of Malacca. And there is enough historical evidence and enough periods in history that were long enough to create that civilizational continuity. So in your book, the little I saw, you do venture into Afghanistan, and you do venture into the Sri Lankan southern region. Uh, you haven't gone all the way to the Caspian Sea, and you haven't gone all the way to the Strait of Malacca and Java and Bali. Do you have plans to do that? Where do you see that in the context of your book?
Are you referring to my first book? Because in this book, this the latest book that I have, it covers Southeast Asia, it covers
Okay.
Japan, it covers all the regions of the world which sent their scholars to study in India and which took knowledge from India. So yes, that
Okay.
was missing in my first book. In
First
my
book.
first
Okay.
book, the educational heritage of ancient India, I did not talk about Southeast Asia, and that was that I was being bothered by that. So I made sure that this time all that is included. So I've included things like, even in Angkor Wat, when we go to Cambodia, that the ruins that we see is actually a university which was modeled on Nalanda. So I put all that information there. Yes, there's enough to talk about, and I've talked about how Sanskrit united Japan. So when Sanskrit started spreading in Japan, then earlier Japan was very divided. It is thanks to Sanskrit chanting that the whole country came together. So those are some of the tidbits that I've put together in this book. So I don't
It's
think you'll be
fantastic.
disappointed.
You brought it into this book. I had seen a graphics that was part of your previous book, which I was referring to. I did not know that you had done the whole. So this is why it is important to have a broader 200 new reference version of older book.
Yes, 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 yes.
And thank you so much for doing this. Ajay, do you have questions for Sahana ji?
Sahanaji, one question, of course, is where do people get the book from?
Oh, it's available on Amazon. So if you happen to know my name, you just type my name on Amazon.
Okay.
You will get both the books. There's, of course, a danger that somebody might buy the first book because the names are similar. One is Educational Heritage of Ancient India, and the other is Revisiting the Educational Heritage of India. So if they get the second book, they will get more details. But yes, it's available on Amazon. And in addition, there is a publisher who publishes an American publisher, Global Collective. So they're relaunching the book. The US edition of the book is now available. They can get it from the Global Collective Publishers website, or they can order it from Amazon also. And I think it's available in a few bookstores as well in America and UK. Apart from India, in India, it's available quite easily in bookstores as well as in various websites, Amazon, Flipkart, and all of them.
Thank you, Sahanaji. But a couple of related things. So we have a Hindu Heritage Month that is coming up in October,
Hmm.
and I would like to invite you to kind of give some thought as to how we can use the opportunity of Hindu Heritage Month. Last year, when we had this event, about 27 states proclaimed Hindu Heritage Month. So I'm trying to let's maybe we should figure out how we can use that occasion to highlight the ancient Indian educational system as part of the broader Hindu heritage. And the other is, really, what is the best way to propagate this thought among the Hindu youth who are growing up in America? So those are the two things that we would like to kind of really talk with you and get your thoughts on, and how we can further these two.
No, I'll be very happy to engage with you in Hindu Heritage Month and speak to youngsters. That is something that been doing, and I've increased it. So, in fact, I'm going to Atlanta in a few days, where we are doing this Samskara Foundation camp, and there lots of young people are coming there, and I'll be teaching them about India's educational heritage. So, please connect me to as many young people as you can. I'll be happy to talk to them, and if they have more questions, also direct them to the sources, to the books that they should read, the people they should talk to if I'm not able to give them the information. So please, I'll be very happy to work with you on this.
Thank you.
Yes, we really hope, you are in Busboys and Poets signing your book, and that would be the ideal venue for Americans experiencing the knowledge that they need to know about the educational heritage of India.
Absolutely. And
So,
maybe, I will get ideas for my next book as well. Because I get so many questions about, why do we worship the cow? Why do we, have this caste system? So I think all these topics need to be also addressed in my next book, because these things, there are a lot of myths about India, a lot of misunderstandings that need to be cleared up. So please let me know whenever there's an opportunity. I'll be happy to interact.
absolutely,
Do that.
absolutely. And Ajay bhai, do you have any more questions? So we had a wonderful audience interaction as well. So thank you. I just want to thank all the audience, Jay Bansalji, Indrani ji, Tara ji, for actively commenting and writing while Sahana ji was speaking. And thank you for your good questions. Hopefully we were able to answer some of them. And good luck to Sahana ji. And in a short while, you will be releasing your book, launching your book. And this was a fantastic pre-launch event, I hope. And thank you,
Yes,
Ajay
it
bhai,
was.
again.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
inviting me. I enjoyed
Namaste.
it.
Thank
Namaste.
you.
Thank you so much.